Hey y'all, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan, and here we do a little bit of all things creepy. But every single day for this month, I am doing nothing but reading stories that you guys have sent in to me of your own paranormal encounters. So, with that being said, if you have any stories you would like for me to share, please send them to the email in the description, or I will also put it up on here. Down in the description, though, you will also find podcast episode links because my husband and I do have a storytelling podcast where we tell your stories as well and go a little bit deeper into talking about them. You will also find social media links to my TikTok, my Instagram, my Patreon, which goes even further into stories and talks about some of my own experiences that I've never talked about publicly. Anyways, now that we got that out of the way, check all that out and let's get into some stories. It's been a while since I visited my aunt and uncle that live in the mountain home beside of a graveyard. I would sleep in the living room since the house was very small. I woke up to something feeling off, so I had to get up to go to the kitchen, and I open the blinds and I see this tall 8 feet gray lady. She has an open jaw, no eyes, short but long frizzy hair. I hear her whisper, "Cancer." Cancer was how my grandpa died in 2012. The next story. I had lived in this apartment and I had my own room. This was when I was young. I would lay in my room and I was always terrified of this room and the apartment itself. Whenever I would lay down, I would always hear whispers, just whispering. I would hear things like closet, help, and stuff like that. I would always shoot up and run to my mom's room because I was so scared. My last story. Back at my aunt's house, me and my cousin had went to explore the graveyard there, and there was this part in the graveyard that didn't have grass in it. It was a native burial ground. Sometimes where there was grass, we would never cut it, and my uncle and aunt and cousins were too scared to even go near it. I listened and stayed away, but I would always stare from afar. Well, later this night, I had fallen asleep, and I was in a deep sleep. And in this dream, I was in the graveyard. I was standing in front of the burial site. Something whispered in my ear, "Your family is on my land." I think the spirit is attached to me, and I always feel something watching me no matter where I'm at. My cat Marble, whenever he's in the room, just stares behind my door in that corner. Once I woke up to see him sitting in front of the corner, staring like there was something there. Okay, so let's talk about a few of these. So, the lady with the jaw whispering cancer is really scary. I feel like that's some sort of I feel like I've heard the legend of that woman somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a legend somewhere, I think. Like, down to the way she looks. Am I mistaken? I feel like I remember that. The second one in the apartment, that sounds like literally just a haunted apartment. Like, you've moved into a haunted space. But the last story where your family's on my land stuff, yeah, yeah, that'll happen. That'll do it. Definitely, I don't know if you're still experiencing that or if you go there anymore. Leaving offerings and showing appreciation for the land would help with that, but yep. Alright, next story. I've been watching your channel for a while and I love the spooky content. Thank you for sharing the stories and tips about the Appalachian Mountains. I've had quite a few unsettling experiences myself and I figured I'd share them with you. They're not terribly scary, but surely frightened me at the time. They take place in Palm Beach County, Florida, which is located in South Florida. Let's start at the beginning with the house that I grew up in. The time frame is in the 90s. I was under the age of 10 and my brother's 3 years younger than me. Our rooms were right next to each other. There was a linen closet across from my bedroom and the bathroom next to that. My father had removed all of our bedroom doors because apparently we wouldn't stop slamming them. I don't remember that. So our rooms were open to the darkness of the house. I remember always being terrified to leave my room at night to use the bathroom because there was something scary in my brother's room and I was afraid it would get me. I also remember sharing a room with him at some point because I was scared for him. Our bathroom had a window in the shower that opened up to the backyard, and there was a large group of palm tree-looking plants. They had green trunks, so I don't know. It was about 6 feet from the window. Well, as soon as I was tall enough, I would get this feeling of being watched from those trees. It was so bad that I remember drawing at my desk and looking over to the linen closet. It was daytime. When I looked down at my paper, I had drawn a dark closet with yellow, scary eyes staring at me. I have no recollection of drawing that. Quickly, I crumbled it up and threw it out. Also, I can remember constantly waking up at night screaming and crying for my mom. I don't know why, and apparently I sleptwalk a lot too. That stopped after moving out of the house. I also remember really bad thunderstorms, so bad that everyone's car alarms would go off and just terrifyingly loud. I've never experienced anything like that since leaving the house. Before moving out, our kitchen had apparently been infested with black widow spiders. I just remember spider webs blocking the kitchen doorway in the mornings. My mom said it was because a house down the road got tinted or fumigated. Since then, more random occasions of spookiness. Back then, we were teenagers, early 2000s. My brother had his alarm clock that wouldn't stop going off, so we unplugged it, but it kept going off. We checked the batteries, except there weren't any. Jumped on it to break it, made very little damage, but did stop the alarm, so we chucked it in the dumpster. And then it came back. After multiple attempts of throwing it out, I had to take it to a dumpster quite some distance from our place to get it to stay away. Another time, I had a friend over, and we decided to play the Ouija board. We had no idea what we were doing. We did close it out, though, and a few weeks later, I would wake up to my sliding glass doors rattling. Sometime after that, I would wake up to see a being of light in the middle of my room. I rolled over as casually as I could and pretended to be asleep, and the next morning I checked the area it was standing in, and there was nothing there. Now, to my adult life, around 2013. At this house, my family, my son, stepson, and husband, and I were staying in. We would constantly hear banging. That wasn't the typical house settling type of bangs. Scratching and things dropping on the walls, which we convinced ourselves that it was just some lizards since our area has tons of them. And at night there were always footsteps. One time my stepson was climbing down his bunk bed stairs and had to walk 2 steps toward the bathroom door when all of a sudden he felt a tiny ball, like a super bouncy ball size, pelt him in the chest, which sent him flying back a few feet. He crashed into his dresser. He was around 5 or 6 at the time, and I came running into their room, my son and stepson share a room, to check on them, and he told me what happened. I checked his closet, and sure enough, there was a small red mark where he indicated to have been hit. I yelled at the room to leave my kids alone, and they haven't experienced anything that extreme since. Another time, my son told me that he saw one of his plushies moving, so that was gone. When my daughter was born in 2015, she would constantly look at a particular area of the house and say, "Bye, elephant." We don't have anything elephant-like in that house. Our current ghost, we have dubbed the smiley face ghost, started off with my son pointing out how it looked like a happy face in the tuna salad in the fridge. Just 2 dots and a parenthesis. We thought it was funny and dismissed it. Then we noticed it again in a peanut butter jelly sandwich. We just laughed it off, and then it started reoccurring randomly everywhere at my son's father's house when he accidentally spilled wing sauce on the floor, or spray painted on a truck driving by. While we're moving to a new place, a stain on the shirt of my pants, or some other randomness. We don't feel it's malicious. Creepy, yes, but nothing negative. Kinda like a "you're never alone, but not in a bad way" thing, if that makes sense. Sorry if this is so long and rambling. You don't have to read it on your channel. It's just nice having someone listen and believe me. So I'm almost positive I've read this before, and I realized that about halfway in, but it's one of my favorite stories that I've been sent, because there's just so much detail and so much stuff going on, so I kept going. So, if that sounded familiar, you're not crazy. I just wanted to reread it. I guess they sent it twice, which is fine with me. Alright, next story. Hey Morgan, I hope you and your family are doing well. This story took place in New Braunfels and La Vernia, Texas, about 3.5 years ago. In May, I was visiting my friend Chris in New Braunfels. I believe it was around 7 p.m. and the weather was showing signs of an incoming thunderstorm. Chris and I were playing Magic the Gathering and waiting for a no-strings-attached partner of mine. Let's call her T. T showed up as the night got colder, and it was getting late and both T and I were tired, ready to head out. But the weather had turned really bad. Chris suggested we stay the night in his spare room and leave in the morning, and we agreed. T and I went to sleep in the guest bedroom while Chris stayed up in the living room with his dog Ringo. While sitting on the couch watching TV, Chris said that he saw something in the hallway near the kitchen, a large shadow peeking around the corner. Every time he looked directly at it, it would disappear. He thought it might be a trick of the light from the TV. Then suddenly a D20 dice, we'd been using it earlier for magic, flew off the table and hit the refrigerator. Chris was stunned. He picked it up and put it back on the table, then moved to the opposite side of the couch to get a better look at the hallway near the kitchen and the spare room. That's when Ringo started growling and slowly walked toward the spare bedroom where T and I were sleeping. Keep in mind the door was closed. When Ringo got to the door, he started wagging his tail. Then, according to Chris, the door opened on its own, and Ringo went in and laid down next to me. This completely freaked Chris out. Not only did he see the door open, but he also saw a shadow figure pacing back and forth in front of it. Shaken, Chris went to his room for the night. A couple of days later, I was back home. I live in a mobile home on the outskirts of La Vernia, Texas, with my roommate, Zach. The inside of the home was dark, and we both work night shifts. I work for Caterpillar, and Zach works for a different company. We both have blackout curtains throughout. One day, Zach came into my room and asked, "Who else is in the house?" I told him, "Just me." And he said, "I swear I saw someone in the living room, like a figure." I asked what it looked like, and he said it was around 5'4", all body, was black. Just a few minutes later, my phone rang and it was T. We started arguing. These arguments became frequent, and each time, right before she would call, either Zach or Chris reported seeing shadowy figures. The last time it happened, I was heading home along the phone with Chris. Suddenly he said, "Hold up." I asked, "What?" And he replies, "Guess who's here?" I said, "Who?" He said, "The shadow person." I could hear him rushing down the hallway of his house. He flicked the light switch and shouted, "Gotcha!" But no one was there. 30 seconds later, T called me again. The call led to another major argument, and we finally went our separate ways. So I guess the shadow figure was just like a ball of negative energy, like an omen. Pyrrha, I don't mind if you sit here, but I have a fresh tattoo and your feet are going in it. Your toe beans are scratching the fresh tattoo. I'm sorry. Alright, let's read another one. I would like to talk about and also get your input on some paranormal things that happened when I was younger. There are multiple things that happened, so I will go over my parents' experiences first, my sister's experiences, and then my own. When I was around 8 or 9, we moved into a place in northeastern Kentucky. It was rather rural. The house we moved into was small, and there was a massive field behind the house. The family referred to it as the Gray House, and my parents don't really like talking about it. We all had some kind of experience in that house. My dad at the time worked night shifts, and he wouldn't be home until daylight. Well, one night my mom heard knocking and thought it was him coming home early, so she opened the door only to see no one there. My mom also ended up with scratches and bruises, and she noticed when she woke up in the mornings. She didn't know how she got them. My dad's experiences were less harmful, but no less scary. He would see an orb that would float from the bathroom and disappear when no one was home except for him. He also saw a shadow figure in the basement, right when we were getting ready to move, as a fire had started in the basement and he was moving out things out of there. It was only him down there at the time. Another thing that happened to him was he saw my glasses fly off my shelf whenever my sister and I were asleep. Both he and my mom said they heard something being poured out onto the floor and that they thought it was me pouring out my box of Nerds candy, but I was asleep when they checked and nothing was on the ground. Now, I don't remember much about my older sister's experiences other than one instance. We were in the backyard in a tent close to the house. We wanted to go camping. Our parents let us do so in a tent that my dad had. We had fun during the day, as it was summer and we were just running around being kids, but when it started to get dark, my sister started to get nervous. She kept saying that she wanted to go back inside. When I asked, she said that she felt like we were being watched. She told me not to tell her parents the real reason why we came back inside instead of spending the night in the tent. I shrugged it off at the time and didn't think much of it until I learned about everything that had happened in that house. My own experiences were a bit different. I would wake up to the sound of footsteps above me. I slept in a bunk bed with my sister. I was on the top bunk, when it was just a one-story house. I would also notice the curtains move when there was no one there to cause a breeze. I would also notice the doors opening on their own. One night I had a dream where there was a nice old man. We talked for a bit, but then he turned into a demon and tried to take me to the grave with him. It wasn't until later that I learned that an old man had passed in that house before we moved in. I already had odd dreams where something similar happened. I haven't had those dreams since I've gotten older, though. I'm 19 now, and I would like to know just what was going on inside of that house. There's probably things that I wasn't even told about, experiences or history about the house, given my parents' reluctance to speak about the house, even to this day. So the fact that your parents won't talk about it, I know they had some stuff happen. Like, this is probably, what they told you was probably so tame in comparison to what actually happened there. But it sounds like, so the old man, that I don't think he's haunting the house for some reason, but I think something in there is malicious and it's using the image of him or just the overall energy that he resonated to mess with you guys. I definitely think it was something malicious. But whatever was outside, I think was completely separate. Like something was out there, like a land spirit or something watching you guys. I don't know. So it seems like at least two different things. But the fact that they won't even talk about it, don't like it. Don't like that at all. But anyways, that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you tomorrow.